Hi, welcome to The Good Neighbors. I'm Ari, the host of the show and the youth coordinator of COYOTE Rhode Island. Today is really exciting because it's November 20th, Trans Remembrance Day, and especially exciting because we have a trans femme guest today, and I identify as non-binary, which makes it an entirely trans show this episode. This is the first sex worker rights show in the world. And although we start there with sex worker rights, we understand the intersection between that and a lot of other social justice movements going on right now. Housing, poverty, worker rights, queer and trans safety, et cetera, et cetera. So we invite other organizations to come and talk about their movements as well, and show everyone how to do your part. Since the last episode, COYOTE has had a panel called 10 Years After Recriminalization, reflecting on a decade of anti-trafficking activism in Rhode Island. That was held at the Center for Slavery Justice at Brown on October 19th. Some exciting things to look forward to coming next month. We're having an event for the International Day to End Violence Against Sex Workers that'll be held at PRISM, which is, the address is 669 Elmwood Ave, Suite B13 in Providence, Rhode Island. We'll have that from 6 to 9, and we would love everyone to come and support that. It's entirely free, and it'll be a great time to honor and remember sex workers who have either lost their lives or experienced violence just doing their job on a day-to-day. And it's free and it's open to absolutely everyone, so we'd appreciate that support. This week we have Arya Serenity, who is a good friend and COYOTE's trans advocacy coordinator on this week, and so in just a minute I'll be interviewing her. Hi, before we get started, I just wanted to add, I forgot to mention the date for the International Day to End Violence Against Sex Workers. It's December 17th from 6 to 9. Arya, are you going to be there?
Yes, I guess.
Nice. Well, thanks for joining us this week. I'm excited to be talking to you. Did you want to introduce yourself anymore or jump right in?
You can jump right in.
Okay, cool. So as one who was formerly incarcerated, can you talk about the hurdles you had to overcome as a trans woman?
The hurdles I had to overcome as a trans woman was first spiritual and internal hurdles. Dealing with a lot of identity crisis, trying to balance my sanity out within an insane environment, and knowing that I always felt like a woman inside, yet always didn't project outwardly that I was a woman because of my upbringing, having been raised in group homes and things like that. Then it wasn't really a place that was conducive for, people such as myself to just come out and say, hey, I identify as a woman.
Right.
It was very violent on many levels. The violence was spiritual, psychological, and it's the same as it was when I was incarcerated. A lot of clashing with who I was, who I felt like I was inside. I am. and what I was trying to project.
Right.
As a safety mechanism. And having been associated with certain groups that were inside, kind of gave me the ability to hide away who I was until I had to face myself, until I had to come to the realization that the longer I stayed, projecting this lie, the more internal damage I was doing to myself.
Right.
And the more harm at the same time I was then reflecting and doing upon others, because I had no way to release the pain. It was misguided aggression.
Right.
And so my hurdles were many and traumatic. Having been gang affiliated and sent to the high security center for gang activity, it was there that, sitting in a box for 23 hours a day, 24 hours a day, you begin to, have to face yourself if you're open to that. And many people aren't open to that. Many people run from themselves further and then thus cause themselves to fall further in their pain, some into their insanity. And I've seen a great many people not come out the same. We all come out
Right.
and walk away scarred. But
Yeah.
for me, I felt like if I went that route where I just gave up and allowed that insanity to drive me crazy and to
Right.
take a hold of my spirit and soul and further allow it to destroy me, then I was letting them win. I was letting the system win.
Yeah.
I was letting my past win. And I couldn't allow that.
Right.
I made it this far for a reason. So I sought to, face my reality and begin to heal from inside. Healing is what is the number one antidote that you have to do, and that has to start from within, and you gotta want it.
Yeah.
And it's a painful journey. It's violent psychologically because you're clashing with yourself, and there's no one else there but you, and it's you fighting you. And
Right. The experience of coming out.
right, and first, not even the experience of coming out, but should I come out?
Right.
How do I come out?
And where were you at the time when you did come out? Were you in prison at the time? Or?
Right, I was
Yeah.
at the ACI in Cranston, Rhode Island. I was at the high security center when I came out to myself and said, all right, this is what I'm going to do.
Right.
It was at maximum security when I came out to everyone, said, this is who I am, and I'm now going to live as I should be living, and been denying myself all these years. I had built a reputation inside the prison system to be of a radical individual, a person that's of no nonsense. At the same time, one who didn't fear the oppressors that were inside. Oppressors being those that were correctional officers or those that were prisoners, not knowing they were prisoners, but yet identifying as, convicts or offenders, inmates, whatever labels were thrown at them, and they, conformed to and accepted. When I came out there at maximum, because of that reputation, it allowed me to to my surprise, it allowed a great many people to come to me and say, I respect that. And do you know, I've also thought about doing this, and what they've told me in private will remain private, but for a lot of people related to, whether being gay or bi, and you just couldn't take that step that I had taken. So it was also, it was sort of like a blessing to them as well to see me out of all people, because they used to call me Born when I was inside. So did you hear what Born's doing? Oh, Born's turned into a woman. Oh, Born's crazy. At the same time, it would be like, yeah, but Born did this.
Right.
And Born stood up for this, and Born spoke up for this.
Right.
So we respect that. And whether they agreed with it or not, they respected it because of the internal advocacy work that I did, not just for LGBT people, but for prisoner rights themselves. So my coming out within the prison system, population-wise, prisoner-wise, was pretty smooth. I felt a lot of resistance coming from the DOC itself.
Really?
Yeah. In the attitudes, the slick talk behind your back, the things you would figure a prisoner would do was coming more from the correctional officers. And not all. I don't want to, mislead people and say, the correctional officers, they were all evil, they all mistreated me, they all did me harm. And that wasn't the case. I had some that were actually supportive. But a great many more, though, that were like, ugh.
Yeah.
Or would try to set regulations on me when I would go for my showers and things like that. But you can't do this or you can't do that. Just make it difficult and discouraging.
Right.
But they underestimated my strength, and my will to persevere. You're not gonna intimidate me. You're doing it to the wrong person.
Right. Yeah. It sounds like you were inspiring to other people that were there. And what was it that kind of kept you, true to yourself, and also speaking out on the behalf of people who
Well, what helped me do that was one thing I learned years ago when I was first incarcerated. I used to follow the older crowd, the crowd that we called the OGs, And this is in my days when I was deaf, dumb, and blind, meaning I lacked the knowledge of myself. I lacked historical and political realities. I didn't understand what history, political science, sociology, psychology. I didn't understand that world. When I went to high security, and so before that, I would fall on every word these people would say. Oh, this is how we gotta act, and this is how we gotta do. And little by little did I start to see a great hypocrisy, and a lack of, true, a lack of following through in a lot of things, a lot of deception, a lot of tricks, a lot of manipulation. So I didn't, at that time I was stuck on them. It wasn't until I went to high security and started reading that I started following and listening to the voices of people like George Jackson, Assata Shakur, Noam Chomsky, Mutulu Shakur, Jomo Kenyatta, a lot of revolutionaries, a lot of Pan-Africanist revolutionaries. And I started reading a lot of history and psychology. I wanted to understand not only what was being done in history, but the mentalities and how it reflected to me today. And so when I was inside, my leaders ended up being the books, the authors that I read. And they were the ones that gave me the drive and taught me the lessons of how to persevere while I'm inside, and how to, you know, never let my emotions supersede my intelligence.
Right.
You know? And in following these people, it enabled me to do a lot more soul searching and finding myself.
Yeah. And that led you to want to do more activism and stuff like that.
Yes, it led me to not only want to do activism, but to realize that I could do it right then and there.
Right.
And so in doing so, it builds a lot of conflict, you know, because
not everyone's on that page yet.
Right, and not only that, but the department, you know, the oppressor doesn't ever want to give you the oppressor will never give you the keys for liberation.
Right.
Whether it's spiritual, mental, psychological, just won't give you the keys. But when they find out that you found the keys and you started unlocking the doors on your own, then they're real quick to come and help try to shut them back.
Right.
But once they're open, they're open. You can't shut them, you know, unless it's really not who you are. It's less that you really haven't gotten to that point in your life where you've spiritualized and embodied the work of your ancestors, of the words of your ancestors, the spirit of your ancestors. And I very much did so. And in doing so, it allowed me to, like, if I'm going to, you know, be in segregation, then I'm going to be in segregation not because I'm bringing harm upon another prisoner or a person that looks like me, but it's because I'm now going to be the voice for those who can't speak for themselves. I'm now going to say, why isn't there mental health services here that are appropriate and accurate and effective? Why aren't the religious people having the ability to truly do their work without, you know, hindrance? Why aren't we going outside for our recs? Why aren't we allowed certain reading materials? And why isn't the medical personnel doing their jobs the way they're supposed to be doing? So I started speaking up to a lot of issues like that and advocating hunger strikes, advocating work stoppages, things of that nature. So this brought me in conflict with the authorities inside.
Yeah, definitely.
In a different way, though, because the other way, it was, you know, when you're gang related or something like that, they consider you like you're unintelligent, you're this and that.
Yeah.
So somewhere along the line, you'll conform. But this way, when they see that your mind is free and that you're acting on that, they really don't like that because they can't shackle you.
Right.
You know, and so it's combative.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I also wanted to ask, so then, because I know you were teaching me about recidivism.
Recidivism. Yes.
Yeah, and so I was curious, what in your opinion is like necessary to combat that then after?
Community.
And can you talk about what recidivism is also?
Yeah, well, recidivism is plain and simple. You know, it's when a prisoner is freed from prison and then is enabled maybe to conform to society and finds themselves, you know, reoffending and going back into prison. And so that's continuing recidivism, you know. And a way to stop recidivism is to build true, meaningful, and effective community. Yeah. A community that has supreme understanding of what poverty is. Right. Of what struggle is.
And privilege.
What privilege is, like, right. And the minds and the mentalities that helped cultivate the current atmosphere in which we all exist in. And if you can get yourself surrounded by people who, like I said earlier, spiritualize struggle and embody it, you can save a life. Yeah. You can save a life. Definitely. I am a prime example. I've had, being a member of Black and Pink, Coyote.
Yeah, yeah.
I've surrounded myself with people that have done exactly that, that live and breathe this.
Yeah.
That for a great many don't get paid.
Right.
A lot of what they do is volunteer, but they get paid in other ways. They get paid in friendships. They get paid in love.
Yeah.
You know, camaraderie.
Yeah.
Solidarity.
Definitely.
You know, those are the payments that are given in return.
How did you start getting into that kind of activism with Coyote and with Black and Pink? And I know you do a lot with Trans Lifeline.
Right. Well, Black and Pink, I did when I was inside. Black and Pink is a prison abolitionist pen pal organization. They do work predominantly for the LGBT community, in support of that community. And they set people up with pen pals, and they have a monthly, weekly, weekly newsletter where we can all, you know, share information, share each other's struggles and pains, and learn how others persevered, learn about certain lawsuits that might have been won or hadn't been won, so it can help those that are going through similar situations to combat or to teach them how to, you know, divert, get away from that. So Black and Pink started a chapter in Providence, for which my friend, now my brother, a family member, Daniel Stern, who was my direct pen pal, reached out to me. And this was about 5 years ago, and we're still in touch. And it's just been a continuing relationship based on their belief.
Right.
For community. And I joined up with Bella Robinson from Coyote. Let me tell you something. A one woman army right there.
Yeah.
And I say that because since I've gotten out, I've seen a great many other organizations. You know, a lot of things that I've seen has been performative. A lot of things that I've heard and witnessed that are out of touch, are out of tune, don't speak the voice of the whole. And I watched Bella from afar. And one of the reasons why I attached myself to Bella's organization is, one is because I'm a sex worker myself. Two, I'm a trans woman, and she has no bias or disdain towards that. Three, they're on the ground. She's on the ground doing that grassroots work by herself, with a little crew, group of minions, you can say, right? Lovingly, that help her, aid her in doing the work to decriminalize sex work and to destigmatize it. And not only that, but she's doing housing, she's doing prison abolition. I mean, everything and anything that affects a sex worker, which is everything that's oppressive in this country, she does. And it comes from the heart. There are some groups who might have a bias because, you know, she's a white woman, and, you know, predominantly POC groups want to, well, we want people that are like us. Well, you know, I mean, this woman has not only been incarcerated and been a voice for, you know, sex workers, but she's been a voice for everybody, POC alike. So having witnessed that, I said, I want to get down with that. I need some of that right there. And in doing so, she accepted me with open arms. And I've been going to meetings and helping set up this this show, The Good Neighbors,
Yeah.
that we're doing right now.
Couldn't do without you for sure.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Did you? Oh,
Right,
yeah,
but right,
please.
before, and this is the community. This is what the community looks like.
Right.
Is the people that are on the ground, who don't have those
Yeah.
you do that, or disdains, or judgments. They're just very welcoming and loving.
That's amazing. Yeah. I was gonna ask one more question. If you feel like you can wrap up kind of a little bit about like Trans Lifeline, and how you got involved with that and the work
Right.
you're still doing.
I work at Trans Lifeline, which is an excellent hotline org. I am their inside advocacy coordinator as well. I do my group is the micro grants, and I give grants out to incarcerated persons and informally incarcerated persons in need for document change, name change. The persons that are inside could need commissary, and we send them money for commissary or post-release grants for when they get out of prison and have a little something to stand on.
Yeah.
And we advocate for them, and trying to help them find housing, the necessities of life. And this is what we do.
And I feel like that also connects with citizen. So then people have something to stand on, and they can, better overcome those hurdles after they get out of prison.
Hopefully not reoffend.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much for joining us this week. This was so nice to chat with you. And please come back next time for the Good Neighbors episode. We'll be airing on Sunday. And we hope we see you on December 17th. And have a good night.
Yes, you too.